I'm Evan, and this series has been shaped by me. Welcome to Symbiotic Vibration, a space born from struggle and built for healing. I'm Evan, and this series has been shaped by my journey through having lived with a brain tumour and navigating the 7 years to this very day since its removal. My hope is that these insights may guide you through whatever experiences and storms you may be going through at present. I promise you, you're not alone, and there's light at the end of this tunnel. So, with that being said, let's walk this path together and see where it may lead us. Have you ever told yourself that you're fine when deep down you're not? Have you ever looked in the mirror and told yourself that tomorrow will be the day you'll face it? But tomorrow never comes. Tomorrow becomes the hiding place. You see, denial isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it wears a well-pressed shirt and it goes to work. Sometimes it cooks the dinner, and sometimes it smiles on cue, all while quietly trembling under the surface. Sometimes it's a silent whisper that says, "Not today." But maybe today we'll take the first honest breath. Before we get into this episode, I think it'd be a good idea, hear the sheep in the background, I think it'd be a good idea for us to begin with a check-in. I'm not going to pretend that I'm some form of spiritual guru. If that's something that you're looking for, which might actually be important, there's plenty of them out there. You can go and research, find people that will help you through your own daily spiritual practices. But I think it is extremely important that if we're on the healing journey together, that we begin to develop an intimate relationship with every aspect of ourselves. And so, let's check in. During this check-in, while I'm speaking, try to take in some deep inhales. Breathe life into every cell in your body. Deep exhales, trying to release any tension, any unwanted energy. And what we will be doing during those breathing exercises is activating the parasympathetic nervous system. And what is that? Well, you'll often hear about the rest and digest system when you're in school. It's the opposite of the fight or flight, the survival mode, the sympathetic nervous system. While we walk through the woods in nature, while we step into the sea, while we breathe deeply, we're gently activating the parasympathetic nervous system. And while in that state, the heartbeat drops, the breath softens, you begin to relax. And so, fight or flight is for survival, and parasympathetic rest and digest is for healing. And so with that being said, let's begin by bringing our attention towards our mental state. Are you feeling foggy? Are you feeling sharp today? I don't want you to cast any judgment on your mind. Merely just observe how you're feeling. Again, we're breathing in, we're breathing out throughout this check-in. And you're bringing your attention towards your body. Do you feel the weight of your feet on the ground today? Is there any tension in your shoulders, in your back, in your hips? Again, we're not judging. We're just observing. We're accepting. Bring your attention towards your emotions. Are you carrying any sadness in your heart? Any anger? Any fear? Any unwanted emotions? It's important to observe these things. And lastly, we'll bring our attention to our soul. Do you feel connected to your soul? Have you ever felt connected? Do you feel like there's a cloak around it? Like a bird trapped in a cage? And bringing all of this together, we're not facing anything right now. We're not trying to fix anything or change anything. We're merely observing what's happening within ourselves. And why am I bringing the check-in to light? Why am I bringing this to this episode? Simply put, I think that the first step in facing denial is when we actively are able to look at ourselves without facing away. Oh God, I hope the wind hasn't ruined that take. I felt so comfortable there. And so yeah, I'm here on a rock and I'm facing the beautiful Mahon Falls in the Tumour Mountains, Tipperary. The plan is, I don't really know what the plan is, to be honest. I was walking through the woods down below looking for a place to take the first shot, and I looked up yonder here to this rock and I thought, wow, that looks like a nice shot. So here we are. Here we are. So I'm going to go change the scene now. Probably going to go find a nice stream to collect some water in, and maybe at that point we will get into the nitty-gritty details of what denial is, why denial happens, how we face it. Now, just for an additive, I'm not going to do any more clicking the fingers. If you saw that in the introduction, I had a comment passed to me saying your introduction was finger clicking good, and immediately I was getting flash forwards images of a meme of me being the finger clicking guy. So yeah, no more finger clicking. It's just going to be normal transitions. Maybe I'll bring it back someday, a little callback. But yeah, that's the check-in, and I hope you enjoyed. And I would ask that if you are facing any form of battle right now, any struggle, to stick with it. Maybe try to do that in the morning. Give yourself 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, whatever it takes, just to check in. Some deep breathing, close your eyes, really face into what you're feeling, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Take notes if you need to. Yeah, and maybe do that as many times as you need to do it, because I can assure you that developing an intimate relationship with your body, with your mind, with your soul can only be a positive thing in terms of this healing journey that you now find yourself on. And I am an example of of that, because honestly, I don't know where I would be if I hadn't begun these practices all these years ago. So with that being said, I'm going to go now. It's been a long few minutes already, and this video could breach the hour mark, who knows. So yeah, I'll see you soon. Thanks for being here again, and I hope that it's helping. It's certainly helping me. What a beautiful day. Okay, so we've arrived at Mahon Falls. It's quite busy up there, and I am absolutely not the guy. I don't like to intrude on the public spaces by recording videos like this, for many reasons. It's linked to shame and embarrassment, definitely, but also, yeah, I just don't feel like getting in the way and causing any unnecessary stress. So here I am, on a rock nearby, in a stream, hopefully protected from the eyes of the public. And yeah, I guess from here we're going to get into the idea of what denial actually is. Maybe I'll pop it in the questions right here without a click. Denial is a psychological defense mechanism. It is a tool, and a very important one at that. It often arises when we're struggling to accept our own reality, when we're finding it overwhelming, when it's too hard to face all at once. And more often than not, denial isn't a conscious choice. Actually, generally, those in denial won't understand that they're in there for quite some time. And there's specific reason to that. You see, denial, it's not weakness. It may be perceived internally as weakness, but there is so much strength in it. Imagine it like a cocoon or a shell, a protective layer around your mind, your body, and your soul. And the idea is to keep you safe while your mind, your body, and your soul are gathering strength to face what's happening outside. It can feel like we're hiding, like we're lurking in the background of our own lives. But the sun sometimes hides in the sky, and the forest sometimes hides in the mist, awaiting clearance once more. It feels as though we're running, a weakness, like we're lacking in capability, like we can't face our own reality. And partially that's true, but from experience, I understand that naturally you'll begin to look in. You'll begin to leave the shell, the layer, the cocoon. And as I said before, maybe all that takes is beginning with one honest breath. And so, before I get into my personal endeavors, maybe we will take a breath and enjoy the trickling water. So back in 2015, as I had spoken about in the previous video, I would take a journey to Canada, embarking on a lifetime adventure, one that would never end. And yeah, unbeknownst to myself, I had a tumour on my pineal gland. The tumour was 80% mass and 20% liquid, hiding within my brain and generally not causing any symptoms whatsoever, even though it was in there, until the long haul flight to Canada. So if you think of a Coke can on a plane, it swells while it hits altitude for a long period of time. And it's no different for a tumour that has liquid inside of it. So, for the first time, I would begin to feel symptoms. The tumour expanded in my brain over the 17-hour flight and would begin to cause balance issues. I would have a lot of trouble standing still when I got off the plane. Now, I'm 23 at this point. I had probably drank a couple of glasses of wine and a couple of beers on the way with my friend. We were having a great time. I didn't get overly inebriated. I was just excited. And as soon as we got off the plane, I had serious balance issues. Serious ones. And my first initial conscious thoughts were, okay, this is my first long haul flight. Maybe this is just jet lag. Okay, we'll go with that. And so that went on. We got a taxi from the airport to meet my friend, a third friend who was going to welcome us. And yeah, I didn't feel right internally. The symptoms weren't so evident at that point. We'll get to that at a later phase, but really and truly, I knew deep inside that there was something drastically wrong with me. It was more of an intuitive thought. Now, my vision was weird. My balance was uncoordinated. My equilibrium was all over the place. And yeah, we would go for some food and we would have some marijuana, perhaps. And that would have made things a lot more intense internally. We'll get to that later too. And so, yeah, my friends wanted to go celebrate our arrival to Vancouver in style that evening. And I refused to go, and that's very unlike me at 23. I downright refused to go. I said, nope, I don't feel well. I'm just going to rest up tonight and jet lag will be gone tomorrow and all will be good. And so I spent my first night in Vancouver after taking the 17-hour flight in a hostel bed on my own. And I became extremely upset. I actually genuinely remember thinking, I wish I was at home right now. And I wish I never came here. Which is interesting. I think deep down I knew that there was something terribly wrong. And so, yeah, I would sit outside on a bench on Jericho Beach Hostel. And so I cried my eyes out on that bench. And then I cried myself to sleep because I knew there was something wrong. I could tell. And from there, it would feel somewhat normal for a little while. I didn't want to witness what was happening. I couldn't face it, so I put my head down. I lived normally and I coped. And I buried my head in the sand, which is a symptom of denial that we'll get into later. But essentially, for the first 3 to 4 weeks I was in Canada, those symptoms would steady. I began to get used to the balance, to equilibrium issues. I started to develop some optical issues. I had some vision issues that we will get into later. And I would use alcohol, cigarettes, coffee, marijuana, fun, general fun as well. It wasn't all nefarious coping mechanisms, but essentially I couldn't face it. And I began to find a comfort within that feeling. I began to find a regularity. I was able to regulate myself by using certain substances and behavioral patterns, and that would allow me to take my mind and my eyes and my soul off of the situation that was happening. And so denial can be quite comfortable in that way. And next we will talk about the comfort of denial, but not here. I'm finished here now, and I'm finished for the day. So we'll get into the rest of this episode tomorrow, or the next day, or whenever we get back to it. But know that if you are feeling that way, it's okay. It's okay to hide. It's okay to cocoon yourself in a layer and protect yourself. It's not weakness. Do not judge yourself. It's terrifying to go through something life-altering, whether that be physical or mental or emotional or spiritual. And trust me, I've been there over and over again. And even this week I've had to use the tool of denial. So we'll get into it. But for now and for today, just keep at it. Keep going. I have you. I'll be with you every step of the way. I hope you enjoyed my little mini journey, and I look forward to developing the rest of this episode when I have time. So, goodbye. Okay, finally I have found somewhere that I can stay dry as I speak about denial. The weather is most certainly reflective of the topic of discussion at current. Denial, it comes in waves. Some days you'll have a light, positive day, and some days you will have an overcast and dark day. And here we are. We're going through an overcast spell in this country right now, which is proving quite difficult for me, nature boy, capturing all of these beautiful backdrops. But look, beggars can't be choosers. Here we are. So, to supplement what I was saying at the waterfall recently, I spoke about my own symptoms in brief. We can get into that as we go on through this episode. But yeah, for now, I just want to talk a little bit about the comfort of denial. You see, I know from experience, and I'm sure many of you do also, that denial itself can feel strangely soothing and peaceful, whilst we protect ourselves from a reality that is just far too heavy, far too sudden. You know, it's not that we're lying to ourselves, it's just that we are in hibernation, we're waiting to face our truth. And yeah, I can give you a couple examples of what that would feel like. Maybe I'll do a little transition here. So firstly, familiarity over fear. Even if what we're holding on to right now isn't truly serving us, it's familiar. And familiarity can prevent us from facing the unknown. Often we cling to the life that we lived before the diagnosis, before the loss, before the shift. Because letting go of that life feels like losing control. And so, we'll hold on, even if it's crumbling. The fear of change. Accepting the truth means that something will have to change. And change feels very uncomfortable at the beginning, even if it's necessary. And I believe that it's not so much the change that we fear, but more so the rippling effect of what will happen when we do make the change. Avoiding grief. Denial delays grief. And for many of us, that grief is too much to face right now. And so denial can delay the loss of a loved one, the loss of your own identity, the loss of the life you had before the diagnosis. And it does that like a dam holding back the flood. It's much safer than hope. Oddly enough, denial feels much safer than hope because hope risks feeling disappointed. And if we stay in denial, we don't have to hope. And thus, we don't have to fear losing that hope in the end. A little magic trick. Well, that was my trick. Trying to bring light to this very deep topic. Something that I struggle with actually as well is like, should I be fun, Evan? Should I be serious, Evan? Is there some sort of balance to be had there? And to be honest, we're getting there. We're getting a balance. It's a whole thing. I'm trying to figure out how to, just be within this role. It's not easy. And there's a lot going on in life as well. But look, let's get back to you. If you are within that place of not yet right now, then I just want you to know that that's absolutely okay. And you're not weak. You're not lying to yourself. You're just protecting yourself, and you're just gathering the courage and gathering the strength to open up that door. And I'm here. As I'd imagine the Symbiotic Symphony, all of these beautiful family members that are arriving on will be here for you too. So I almost fell there. Before I go, actually, I also wanted to say that, the word denial often has negative connotations connected to it. It can feel very sad for someone to tell you that you're in denial. And that's not my aim here at all. I just want to let you know that denial is a pivotal tool that we carry, and it is a healing arc. It's a part of it. It's let's call it a shock absorber, a tool, a shock absorber. I like that. Denial, the shock absorber. So I think I'm finished now in this church. It's too wet. My camera is starting to get wet. My hair is starting to get wet. And that's about it. So we have this, we've got this. We've got it. We definitely have it, don't we? I'm just in the car right outside where I last filmed, and I had a little insight come in. I said, why not? Why not do a car chat? Quick one. Don't be afraid to have fun, okay? If you're ill, if you're going through grief, whatever it is, don't be afraid to let yourself have fun. It's super important. And that's something I'm trying to figure out here as well on this series, because I love to have fun. But I'm also speaking about these profound, deep topics, and I'm trying to touch the hearts of people. I'm trying to relive this experience myself. And so part of me thinks, should I not have fun? Should I not make this fun? Should this be totally serious? But then, no. because life is supposed to be fun. And even if you're feeling pain right now, even if you're going through some extremely difficult situation, it's still possible to have fun. Sometimes it's okay to laugh, it's okay to smile. Just because you're ill or just because you're going through something hard doesn't mean that you can't smile or doesn't mean that you can't laugh. In fact, that will help you along the way. So hopefully, as the series moves on, I can make it a little bit more fun, because I have been a bit serious to begin with. But yeah, stick with me, because I'll certainly stick with you, I promise. I'll see you in the office. Welcome back to the office, where we are dry. I'd like to express my gratitude for those of you who direct messaged me last week with regards to the sound on my videos in the office space. Yeah, it's just going to be a thing for a while. I'm going to have to order some sound deadening material for the walls and learn more about the optics of sound. I've tried to use condenser mics and DAWs and filters and FX, but realistically the room is quite large and there's not much sound deadening material in here just yet, so I'll be using the fluffy microphone, and that seems to be the best option. So here we are. And what I'd like to speak about now is the scenarios, as many scenarios as I can construct where denial may arise. Okay, so firstly, and blatantly obviously applicable to me, Evan, we have serious injury or illness. This could be a brain tumor, it could be cancer, it could be some physical changes in your body that you're struggling to face right now. And again, like the beginning of the video, it's okay. It's okay not to be ready or willing to face anything right now. It's just about noticing. The loss or death of a loved one. This is something that I have minimal experience with. I have lost some friends along my path, and I wouldn't say they were best friends, but they were close, and I did experience slight grief, but I was able to accept it very lively. So if you are somebody who has experienced great loss of a loved one and have experienced grief in the past, then again, I would appreciate it, and I'm sure many others would, if you could share that story with us. We also have breakups, divorce, any change in a relationship. Sometimes denial will come about when we're trying to protect ourselves from the reality of what has just happened. Importantly, we have trauma and abuse. Often victims of psychological, emotional, physical trauma, whether that be from childhood, teenager years, or adulthood, will dissociate or deny what has happened in order to protect themselves. And again, I do not have a lot of information with regards to those feelings. However, I do have many friends over the years that have experienced such things. So again, it would be important for others to share their journeys if they have been through such moments of denial over their life. And again, yeah, if you feel like sharing, that would be fantastic. Okay, and next we will speak about addiction, whether that be for yourself or for a loved one. I'm not going to get too deeply into this right now because it will become a common theme of this whole series, but denial is a key part of anyone's addiction cycles, and sometimes we deny that addictions even exist until we're ready. So I have plenty of experience there. I will eventually share a lot of that with you guys and girls, but yeah, again, if any of you have any information about addiction problems, then please do feel free to share. Another example of when denial may arise would be during a financial or a midlife crisis, when life gets a little bit too unbearable to witness. And another important one, global societal crisis. Sometimes it can become so overwhelming to see what's happening in the world that we just dig our heads underneath the sand and deny that it is even happening at all. And a massive one, a change in identity, whether that be a health issue, a sexuality issue, disability, a change in job, etc., etc. Sometimes we'll go through denial because, again, these things are very difficult to witness, and it takes us time to understand them and to integrate them.
We have survivor's guilt. People who've come back from war, people who've been in car accidents, etc., who experience denial when it comes to the idea of them surviving and the others not. Okay, and so witnessing somebody else's pain. Again, I've only seen this very slightly within my life, but I have watched my parents witness my pain for a long time. And I've spoken to them in detail about what that felt like. And denial can most certainly arise when a parent or a loved one must protect themselves in order to deal with the consequences of what may happen to their loved one who's in pain. And of course, we have a spiritual crisis or a loss of meaning. Denial can be triggered when perhaps long-held beliefs that you've had all of your life suddenly fade and you're left with existential questions. Sometimes denial will pop in. Questions like, if that meaning is not true, then what is true? And those existential questions can be very profound. And lastly, extremely important is early childhood patterns. This can often arise in people that live in abusive houses or houses that have addiction connected to them, and many more reasons. But often as an adult, then your default will be denial because you've learned it as a child and that pattern still exists. We will work on patterns in early childhood all the way through this series, so I will go deeper as it goes on. But again, I'm finished with all of the scenarios I could come up with, but if anybody else has any other scenarios in where they have experienced denial, please feel free to share. And thank you very much. Okay, so that takes us through as many scenarios and triggers in terms of when denial would arise as I can think of anyway. So if you do have any more, don't be afraid to share any of them. And I'm going to I was going to share a little bit more about what I was going through in Canada, just to help you to understand that it's normal, to normalize it. Facing into our deepest fears and life-altering changes can be quite difficult. So, over there, as my tumor started to grow, I could feel numbness all over my body, pain in very strange areas. I was having erectile dysfunction. I was having optical issues. My legs were continuously failing me, and things were getting very strange. So look, I knew fundamentally something was drastically wrong with me at the time. However, I was just playing it off. Maybe it's just a slipped disc. Maybe it's just nerve damage. Maybe it'll be gone tomorrow. Maybe I'm just imagining it. Maybe it's an anxiety disorder. Maybe there's psychosymptomatic symptoms and I'm creating these because I'm so powerful that I could do that, and so on and so forth, So there was days when I could listen and I could think, right, maybe there is something wrong. But there was also many, many days where I buried my head in the sand, where I used alcohol, coffee, cigarettes, cocaine, MDMA, pretty much everything that you could imagine, along with mushrooms and marijuana sometimes. And at the time I would use them for fun, but look, we'll get into that in the future in many, many videos, no doubt. And those would also help me to really connect to my soul and figure it out. But let's not get into that right now. But I was using various chemicals and behavioral patterns to distract myself. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't even hear anything outside of my head because my voice was so loud, and eventually I would enter psychosis and enter some suicidal projections and thoughts, and things got very, very dark. So I would up the drinking, I would up the smoking, up the coffee, up everything, and I would have to sleep or try to sleep with my phone on every night. There was no relaxation whatsoever, and this went on and on and on and on and on for almost 6 months. Until eventually I was able to, have a little look in and be like, oh God, okay, maybe I should go home if this is going on for 6 months. And eventually we would get to the acceptance, and that's what the next episode is all about. So look, we're not going to go there just yet, but I'm finished with this part now. So next we'll talk about facing denial and realizing how to spot it. And then we're pretty much done, which is great because this has been a whole thing. I hope you're enjoying it, and I hope it's insightful for you. So yeah, thanks, and subscribe and all that stuff. Love you all. Okay, so now we've been through all of the scenarios. We've been through a little bit of my scenario. So now let's have a look into recognizing denial itself and its symptoms. Okay, so let's talk about the emotional signs and symptoms of denial. Something I have a lot of experience with, so I'd understand that you're probably going through a phase of telling yourself that you're okay. But in reality, you know that deep down you're not. You might find it hard to bring this conversation of topic up with loved ones, with friends. It may also trigger you if this conversation of topic comes up. If this topic of conversation comes up by your loved ones and by your friends. You may also feel completely numb to the idea of what's going on. You might not be able to access any of your emotions and feel in limbo or feel disconnected from your body or your soul. And if you're feeling any of those things, then don't worry, it's absolutely normal, and I understand. Okay, so let's look at some of the behavioral symptoms of denial. This might look like skipping appointments or meetings with friends or family. It might look like the old business as usual model, where you try to pretend like life is just moving on normally, when in reality it's not. It might look like some unhealthy habits that I've gone into in the previous discussion, but you might be going through something similar, using various coping mechanisms to cope, which is normal. And also, it may look like keeping as busy as possible to avoid feeling anything, which is very, very common and okay. And so, look, if you are feeling any of these things, maybe just ask yourself via journal, via the mirror, even out loud when you're on your own, just broach the question, what are you trying not to feel? So let's then speak about some of the mental signs. I think more often than not, we'll minimize a situation. So we'll tell ourselves, this isn't a big deal, or somebody else has this way worse. And so we'll make the situation seem a lot smaller than the reality actually is, because that in itself is denying. It is a coping mechanism. It is a protection. And also, for me, I very much felt disconnected to everything, to my life. I felt like I was living someone else's story at the time and dissociated completely. Okay, so let's speak about some of the physical symptoms of denial, which is something I have a lot of experience in. When the body starts to feel like it's altering in ways that you've never felt before, it can be very, very scary, and you will deny that those symptoms even exist for as long as you need to, and that's okay. And also, you'll probably be very tired if you're stressed. If your body's under stress, if your mind is under stress, you'll be feeling a lot of fatigue. And in my case and many others, we tend to push through this fatigue. We don't listen to the body's warning signs. We persevere through them, whether that be with stimulants or behavior patterns or just complete mental fortitude. Sometimes we will deny that these fatigue and symptoms ever existed. And yeah, the body is always honest, even when the mind is not. And so we will protect ourselves as long as we can. And that's okay. To finish, just a few points on the relational symptoms of experiencing denial. It's very common for us to withdraw from relationships, to withdraw from our loved ones in fear of what may happen if they bring up what we're going through. We will often isolate rather than seek help, because in isolation we feel safe and the unknown does not have to be faced. And yeah, we can sometimes even develop a resentment for those who love us and those who care for us because we're just too unwilling to face the truth. And if you're experiencing any of these things, then trust me, it's okay and it gets better. And before we actually get into the last section of facing denial itself, it might be a good thing to ask yourself a couple of questions if you feel you may be experiencing these symptoms. Some of those questions might be, what am I delaying right now? Am I denying any truths? When's the last time I felt fully honest with myself? And I'm sure you can come up with many more questions yourself, but yeah, don't be afraid to open up the journal. Don't be afraid just to speak out loud or just to sit and briefly think. I assure you, it can only be a positive thing. Okay, so now we're towards the end of the video. Let's dive into the idea of facing the unknown, of facing into denial. And again, this isn't a rush. Be patient with yourself, be compassionate with yourself. Trust me, I've been there and so many of us have. So let's start off by just noticing. As I said on the mountain at the very beginning of the video, we're not trying to judge ourselves here. We're not trying to berate ourselves for being slow or for being quote unquote weak. Let's just start by gently observing what's going on. Whether that just is you taking a couple of moments just to accept, just to peek into the wealth of emotions that are connected to this experience. Whether that means you writing some material to yourself, maybe it's just a couple of questions, Why can't I think about this? Why can't I speak about this? Yeah, and just to gently remind yourself that it's okay, whatever's happening. We'll get through it. We can talk about it. We can think about it. And we'll move from there. Okay, so another method that I and many have used to face into the reality of what's happening is to speak it out loud. It's to bring it into reality. It's to take it out of the shadows and bring it into the light. And it's quite difficult to do. So again, there's no pressure on any of you or anybody in general. Be patient. But yeah, at some point, maybe you'd like to give it a try. Maybe you'd like to speak it out loud to yourself. I definitely went through this period when I was ill and many times over since then. But having to look at myself in the mirror and say, you have a brain tumor. You are in pain. You are exhausted. You do need sleep. You need to cry. You need to talk to somebody. You need to tell somebody about this. You need to fix this. You need to research this, etc. But it's the speaking out loud. It's, again, developing an intimate relationship with yourself. The confidence for you to even say these things out loud it's very important. So look, again, there's no pressure and you don't have to try any of these things, but I assure you that if you do, it will most certainly help. Okay, and that brings me to probably my favorite section of the whole series, and it will keep happening over and over again, but it's writing. Journaling. It brings your mind into the reality, It brings what was metaphysical, what was once a thought, into the physical reality. And yeah, it can alleviate so much space within you. You hold on to so much stress, you hold on to so much fear, so much anger, sadness, etc. Even elation, even all of the most positive emotions can be written down because, otherwise they're continuously up here, and journaling is a fantastic way for you to consolidate all of that information in front of you, and so you don't have to hold on to it anymore. And it's a place where you can be as honest as you want with yourself and nobody has to see. You can be so viscerally honest within a journal and nobody has to see that. And it's just an expression of self, and again, you're growing intimacy with your own soul, with your own heart, and that can only be a positive thing. Another big one is to involve trusted people. It is very difficult at the beginning, I no doubt. I've been there, but yeah, don't be afraid to involve people, friends and family and loved ones, because inevitably those are the people that will become your support network, if not already are, and we need support, especially when we're going through difficult times. So yeah, don't be afraid to look into the eyes of a loved one or a friend and say, look, man or woman, I'm struggling right now and I need some help. Yeah, it's so hard to ask for help, and we'll get into that too, but don't be afraid. And yeah, take tiny steps, It can be terrifying. Like, let's take my situation. I'm Evan, I have a brain tumor, and I have to have surgery in 2 years to cut my skull open, and I'm terrified. But yeah, in reality, it's small steps. Okay, tomorrow I'm going to go to the sauna. Tomorrow I'm going to go to the park. Tomorrow I'm going to go for a walk in the woods. Tomorrow I'm going to research what's wrong with me. Tomorrow I'm going to connect with some people on symbiotic vibration that might have some answers for me, etc. Baby steps. Don't be thinking too far ahead. We're staying in the moment. We're staying in the present. Again, we'll get into that as the future goes on. And accepting the waves. This path is not linear. Denial is not linear. Life is not linear. It comes in waves. It comes in waves. Powerful waves. So yeah, it comes in waves, and yeah, accepting them is extremely important. You're not going to wake up every day and feel amazing, and you're not going to wake up every day and feel dreadful. You'll fall in between a lot of the times. Now, you will have some days where you feel dreadful. You could have many. You could have many days of feeling pure elation. But it's just to accept and to honor how you feel is important, in my opinion. And here's the thing, I think a lot of people have an unrealistic vision of attempting to be happy at all times. It's impossible. Happiness is not the goal. In my opinion, it is to remain content within every spectrum of emotion. So acceptance, yeah, we'll get into it in the next episode, but there you go. And also, to finish off this section, to use the body to anchor the mind, because the mind is going to unravel itself over and over again. If it's anything like my experience, the mind became so loud that the body experienced fight or flight mode a lot. Yeah, rapid heart rate, couldn't breathe, felt like I was having a heart attack. And it was a response to my mind. It was a response to the fear that was happening within my mind, which was a response to the physical symptoms in my body and the whole inception of symptoms. But yeah, allow the body to anchor the mind. Allow yourself to enter into a phase of deep breathing. And as I said earlier, you can go and research different breathing techniques on the internet, and you'll find so many of them that are so helpful. As well as that, you can try doing some walking meditations. Again, go research, but usually I suppose it's kind of a second nature at this point, but when I was going through the doldrums at the time, I would listen to my footsteps while I was walking, so that would take me away from my mind. And if my mind started to play at me again, I would listen back into my footsteps, so on and so forth, so on and so forth. And yeah, you're crafting a skill here. It takes time, and we'll get into that as we go along. Okay, so that should bring us to the end of facing denial. So we're almost finished this episode now, which I can't believe. Yeah, well done for being here, if you are still here, and we can get through this together. And again, I invite you to sit with yourself today and ask yourself some honest questions. I think the objective is not for us to judge, but for us to observe and for us to return and return each time. So I'll finish up this whole episode by heading back outside for 1 or 2 more scenes. Very short ones, I promise you. And yeah, you're great and you're strong. You can do it. We can do it.
And we've made it to the end of episode 2 of A Survivor's Guide to Survival, Denial. My gratitude to you once again for being here. It is much appreciated. And I hope that you have subscribed and become a valuable member of the Symbiotic Vibration family. A space born from struggle and built for healing. And to finish this episode, I came out into the middle of the woods because I feel as though nature has much to teach us, especially with regards to this topic, denial. You see, the trees, they don't rush the seasons. The rivers, they don't resist rock, they flow around it. The sky, it holds both the storm and the calm. And the wind. Well, the wind teaches us that some things can't be held, but only felt. It is in my opinion that sometimes freezing isn't a negative thing. Nature tells us that freezing is survival sometimes. Like the rabbit in the grass, frozen in time. Like a butterfly laying dormant during the winter, awaiting the next season to arrive. Maybe nature also has something to teach us about acceptance, about moving with and not against. So wherever you are within your season, be kind to your stillness. Because acceptance is on its way in its own time and in yours.